We learned this week that it actually is possible to somehow lose a bet even when you have advance notice of the result of the proposition upon which you are punting.
I can't wait to see where this goes.
Okay.
Tell me more.
Let's see where this goes.
We learned this from the UK's Conservative Party, whose determination to tank next week's general election with as little dignity as possible has seemed at times to verge on the actually inventive. We learned specifically that several people close to Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, including 6 police officers, some from Sunak's protection detail, and at least 2 actual Tory candidates, are now suspected of having hastened upon acquiring advance insider knowledge of the election date to their neighbourhood bookmaker.
How easy is it to have a bet?
Oh, it's so simple, Mike. All you do, you come up with your stakes to the friendly bookies, who's always smiling. And if you want to have, say, £5 on number 4, that's all you say. You walk away, you watch the race, you have a bit of fun.
Yes, some of them at least may have done it online. It's just that someone fiddling with a betting app does not lend itself to elegantly evocative sound effects, does it? We also learned that this was not exclusively a Tory foible, as we learned that the ranks of the opposition Labour Party, predicted by most polls to be sauntering to triumph, contain at least one candidate who is not complacent about their prospects of victory.
They suspended one of their own candidates. Kevin Craig put under investigation by the Gambling Commission, not for betting on the election date, but for betting on himself to lose his race.
We learned, however, that Kevin Craig may have spotted a value bet in central Suffolk and North Ipswich, where overturning a majority of some 23,000 votes was always going to be uphill work, even amid a national swing likely to rival the Russian Revolution, but where the odds on the incumbent might have been inflated by the optimism of Labour supporters, and perhaps now lengthened further by Craig's banishment over this indiscretion. There is still a decent-ish 4-11 on offer on Craig's Tory opponent keeping his seat. And we further learned when we looked up just now the odds on the election entire that you can still get £1.04 back for a £1 bet on a Labour majority, which, while vanishingly short odds for what is essentially a 2-horse race, is still a 4% return in a week and therefore significantly better than bank interest. Thank us after the exit polls. Anyway, in the election on the Atlantic's other shore...
Oh no.
We learned that US President Joe Biden has been ordering the large-scale roundup of Christians, which you'd reckon would have made the news more often, but such, regrettably, is the degree to which the mainstream media is complicit in the Marxist subversion of the United States. Can I get some general muttered agreement? We learned this, naturally, from former and perhaps future President Donald Trump, as he burbled to an audience convened by the Faith and Freedom Coalition, who are, given Trump's general and indeed criminal record, and in keeping with the precepts of their religion, clearly a forgiving bunch. We learned, if not for the first time, that a significant coterie of American Christians cannot embrace tightly enough a man who has probably been to church fewer times in his life than Joe Biden went last week, and who only ever interacts with the Bible when required to swear an oath before a judge, so slightly more often than the Pope, am I right? Or when attempting to sell one.
I'm proud to endorse and encourage you to get this Bible. We must make America pray again.
Still only $59.99. But we learned that the United States was not the only jurisdiction in which improbable claims were being made vis-à-vis the virtues of contestants in a popularity contest.
Everything is better with some cows around.
We learned that the annual contest for the much-coveted Miss Vaca Galicia trophy, awarded every year to the cow adjudged the most prepossessing in the Spanish region in question, was down to 4 contenders. Which may, yes, well sound like that. We learned, having not previously happened upon this, and therefore missed out on years of tap-in cow puns, that the Miss Vaca Galicia pageant is a whole thing, on television and everything. Here's a bit of last year's.
Atención, a ver qué resulta ganadora de 35 para Coruña, 34 Coruña, saludos.
Yes, we found that clip on MooTube. We learned that this year's finalists are Navarra, Cuca, Gayada and Parula, and we learned that among the various cases made for them are, we are not making these up, even if we suspect the authors of these claims may be, that Parula is a Scorpio, which might be technically true, but who cares, and that Cuca enjoys bingo, though we are sceptical as to how one would tell, and that Gayada is a fan of One Direction. Particularly, we assume, of their song Don't Forget Where You Belong, Horn. Tragically, well, not tragically, we exaggerate for comic effect, the final results were not known by the time this episode of What We Learned was recorded, but we are certain the winner will be a worthy one, and the voting carefully scrutinised, as befits a contest involving such high stakes. Boo!
May you always have cows around.
For Monocle Radio, I'm Andrew Muller.